You don't have to have existed a long time ago or in a galaxy far, far away to appreciate LEGO Star Wars sets in your LEGO collection. And today I'm going to be counting down the top 10 largest LEGO Star Wars sets to exist in the galaxy with a couple of caveats. So you may know some of these LEGO Star Wars sets already because you remember them from at least a little while ago, because sometimes these sets have already been on shelves in a different iteration. So for example, there have been multiple editions of the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon and the Imperial Star Destroyer, so we're going with the newer of those iterations rather than the older. So if I did do the actual top 10 largest LEGO Star Wars sets, a lot of them would be repeats. So for the sake of keeping everything spicy and interesting for you watching, I'm not going to be talking about the old version, I'm going to be talking about the newer versions. So the remasters of those are valid. So keeping those stipulations in mind, I'm going to start with number 10. The most familiar astromech in the galaxy is R2-D2. It's set number 10225, and it retailed for $180 when it came out all the way back in 2012. It's 8.5 cents per piece, and it really started the trend of non-vehicle based Ultimate Collector Series sets being in Star Wars. Obviously, since then, we've seen the likes of BB-8 and the legendary Porg. So this put LEGO Star Wars on a really interesting track, and I really appreciate how they did the top of the dome of R2-D2 without using too many specialty pieces. It's still blocky, it still has that LEGO feel, while looking just like R2-D2. They definitely captured enough detail with the 2,127 pieces here, so big ups to LEGO for taking the chance on R2-D2, which unlocked many more droids and characters to be built in this scale going forward. And next up is a set that I feel like a lot of people didn't appreciate when it came out way back when. I really did, but it was Assault on Hoth. Set number 75098 came out in 2016, and it has 2,144 pieces and retailed for $250. Now, the price to part ratio is not the alarming thing here because it's 11.7 cents per piece, so that's pretty par for the course for Star Wars. It's just that a lot of these little builds inside of here had been in existing LEGO Star Wars sets. So if you had been collecting LEGO Star Wars for the past couple of years, you probably already had a typical turret or, you know, the Hoth Echo Base gate and things like that, especially the Snowspeeder. So this one, I believe, saw a pretty early retirement, even though it was a really cool set, and it was dubbed as a Ultimate Collector Series set, even though it was more so of a play set, so there was a lot of confusion with that as well. I really like the minifigure selection here, and I did end up getting this for myself. One day when I'm not making videos constantly, I hope to make a Hoth mock, but at this rate, it'll probably be when I'm 75 in a rocking chair with nothing better to do. I mean, you just gotta appreciate it for what it is. If you got that as a Christmas gift or birthday gift, you get everything you could possibly want for a Hoth playset, and I mean, hey, that's pretty cool. Next up is a set that I know a lot of you want to see come back because of how awesome it is. It's set number 10212, the Imperial Shuttle. It has 2,503 pieces, 5 minifigures, and it retailed for $260 way back in 2010. So the Shuttle Tidarium is something that I've seen pop up in conversations for what UCS people would really want next. And it's definitely an important vehicle in the realm of the original trilogy, and I could totally see this coming back. And it's absolutely massive when those wings are unfolded, and it has a beautiful shape to it as well. I know it's on a lot of people's wish list, but the aftermarket is littered with very expensive listings for this, so if you want to get this one for yourself, good luck. Next up, we have yet another play set that saw an early retirement from what I remember. It's set number 75222, the Betrayal at Cloud City. It came out in 2018, has 2,812 pieces, 21 minifigures, and it retailed for $350. So the price to part ratio of 12.4 cents per piece, I think, was definitely one sting when this set was announced. But then you look at what the set actually is, and it's supposed to be Cloud City. When I heard the opinions of sets like this and the Death Star, a lot of people really wanted to see the shell of the outside of what the structure is supposed to be, so you could kind of cover it up and have it be less of a playset. And an interesting scale was that Slave 1 that was included, because obviously we've gotten the UCS Slave 1, which would have been number 11 on the list if I had included it, and you know, different sizes throughout the years as well, but nothing quite like in this MIDI scale. I really wish LEGO would go and try to explore something with that. I think that's a price point that people would really appreciate, and a scale that still works with minifig scale. It doesn't look too crazy out of proportion. It's a really interesting build, and what I believe to be an interesting set overall. And next up on our caveat-filled list is set number 10221, the Super Star Destroyer. 3,152 pieces, 5 minifigures, and it retailed for $400 way back in 2011. And I believe this was the first time we got Bosk as a figure, so until they had the battle pack that had Bosk, this was your only way to get him. And the Super Star Destroyer, obviously different from the main Imperial Star Destroyer. They're built kind of the same way on the inside, a lot of Technic parts keeping that together. That way it's, you know, still movable. But the scale of this is incredible, and if you are a fan of articulate models that are very gray, well boy, do we have a couple of sets on here that are for you. Moving away from gray for now is the next set on the list. It's set number 75059, the Sandcrawler. 3,296 pieces, 14 minifigures. Well, a lot of them are droids, so I don't know how you want to count that for yourself, but it retailed for $300. And I remember having the original version of this set way back in the day. This is obviously the more updated version with newer pieces and building techniques involved. You get a ton of droids here, lots of Jawa, and obviously Luke and Uncle Ben. So it functions as a playset, but also a really cool Sandcrawler model in general. I always appreciated how massive the Sandcrawler is by comparison of the Jawa being so small, so I appreciated having this in my collection before it got decimated somewhere, somehow. We have our first Death Star on the list, but it's not the first Death Star, it's the second Death Star. It's set number 10143, Death Star, Roman numeral 2, just so you can differentiate the two if you couldn't already. It has 3,441 pieces, retailed back in 2005 for $270, and wow, you're not going to see a price-to-part ratio in a Star Wars set that scale probably ever again. This is the incomplete Death Star from the latter half of the original trilogy. I appreciate the aspect of this set being that you have the outer shell of the Death Star, as well as a lot of detailing in the middle, but I personally prefer the playset idea because you get a lot more minifigures with it and opportunities to showcase your favorite scenes overall. There were two versions of the Death Star. The first one came out in 2008. That's set number 10118. The only difference between this one and the next one up here are the minifigures being updated. The middle column is updated a little bit, and the turning mechanism for the giant laser in the front. So very minute differences in terms of functionality, but the piece count is very different. So the official next one on the list is Death Star, set number 75159, has 4,016 pieces, has 27 minifigures, and a retail price of $499. So the original came out in 2008, this one came out in 2016, and it's still available to this very day. So I feel like they re-released this partly due to inflation and to update the minifigures. That way this can lurk on store shelves for another 10 years. Because it's the Death Star. You have all of the iconic scenes you could possibly recreate. A bunch of minifigures, not just in one form, but like you get 2 or 3 versions of Luke Skywalker. You get Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, Princess Leia, Hans. You get everybody from the original trilogy that's ever really set foot on the Death Star. There's not much else you could ask for with that. Most of this build, though, is the gray structural part, so if you're thinking about getting this one, make sure you keep that in mind. And just as I was talking about how much I love the color gray, we have the next one on the list. It's set number 75252, the Imperial Star Destroyer. It came out in 2019, and it retails for $700 in the US and has 4,784 pieces. Now, the first edition of the Imperial Star Destroyer came out in 2002 and had 3,096 pieces that retailed for $270, and that's set number 10030. So this is the superior version of the Imperial Star Destroyer. Now, they do look a little bit different when you compare them side by side. There's a lot more detail on this Imperial Star Destroyer as opposed to the first one, obviously. I enjoyed my time building the Imperial Star Destroyer, even though I'm not a big fan of the gray of the Imperial Star Destroyer. It's arguably the most iconic LEGO Star Wars ship of all time because it's one of the first ships you see in the entire franchise, because you get the Imperial Star Destroyer along with the Tantive 4. And you might say, but Brian, how can you possibly say that when clearly the next set on the list is the most iconic Star Wars ship of all time? I would agree. It's set number 75192, the Millennium Falcon. 7,541 pieces, 8 minifigures, and a retail price of $800 in the US. The first edition of the Falcon came out in 2007 and had 5,197 pieces and retailed for $500. So that is a $300 price increase. You have a couple thousand more pieces and a few minifigures there as well. This is by far the ultimate LEGO Star Wars set. It is the Millennium Falcon. The detailing all along every inch of this set is, you just can't compare. A lot of videos that I've seen and a lot of pictures I've seen on the internet are people making this set and specifically creating a coffee table to display it with. That's how massive this thing is. At least with the Imperial Star Destroyer, I was able to put it on a shelf. The Millennium Falcon, that's like literally impossible. So make sure you have a dedicated amount of space before opening up this bad boy, and LEGO re-releasing this was a great thing for them to do because the previous version of the Falcon was going for crazy money on the aftermarket. So it allows more opportunities for fans to get their hands on the Millennium Falcon and cherish it for many, many years to come. Alright, so I'm making this video in June 2020. The Millennium Falcon came out in 2017, so I wonder what set could possibly dethrone the Millennium Falcon and have a higher piece count and be that much more epic. I don't think anything can, honestly, and that's just not my nostalgia talking, that's just reason talking at this rate. But I'm sure you have a Ultimate Collector Series set you have in mind to be released. I mean, you got the Republic gunship, so that's a victory there. What else do you want to see become a massive LEGO Star Wars set? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll be searching and giving my opinions on those, whether you want them or not. My name has been Brian Saviano, aka Bricks O'Brien. I'll see you again next time for probably another one of these top 10 videos, because for some reason you like hearing me talk about the top 10 of something. I'll give the top 10, I don't know, grains of wood in a separate video. All right?